Hi everyone, I'm Mike and welcome again to Outdoor Adventuring Gear. Today I'm going to be taking a look, and matter of fact, giving my review and approval of my #1 tent that I've used for years. I absolutely love this tent. I've had it in every season. Although it's a 2.5 to 3 season tent, I've used this tent through every season, all 4. Had it out in the snow and some winds when I shouldn't have, but I had a lot of fun with it. And that tent is the Alps Mountaineering Zephyr 1 tent. Made for 1 person. They also have these for 2 person and 3 person. And as a matter of fact, my wife and I do own the 3 person Zephyr 3, and we've used it a lot. I have to say one thing about Alps Mountaineering, their customer service is compared to no one. It is outstanding. Now with that tent, the Zephyr 3, my wife and I, after several years of using it, the first edition of that tent had a window in the emblem, in the A, and after a couple of years of using it, the A started to leak a little bit around that plastic window, which was basically on one of the sides that you could look out. So I contacted Alps Mountaineering, told him about this problem, and asked them how I should treat it. What would be the best way for me to treat that on my own? Alps Mountaineering reached out to me, told me to send that tent in with the model, and they sent me a brand new Rainfly back to me, free of charge, free shipping, free everything, with no question. Now to me, that is customer service, and that is why I love their products. Now before we get started, I'm going to give some stats on the tent. I'm also going to put some up next to me because it just has a lot of attributes that I don't want to overlook or say too fast, and I want you to be able to maybe pause the video later and see what they are. But it weighs, my tent and my scales weighed just about 4 pounds. That's the tent and the Rainfly. If you put the tent, Rainfly, and stakes all together, it's maybe 4 pounds 5 or 6 ounces, because of course the stakes don't weigh that much. The Zephyr tent series has a unique 2-pole design with a 1-pole cross, basically almost like a cross beam to support the upper head of the tent. Mountaineering does make custom ground sheets for their tents, but they are sold separately. One thing that's small that really has nothing to do with Alps Mountaineering itself, but does belong to their products, which I found out helps me. I own both the Zephyr 1 and the Zephyr 3, and they're packed basically the same. There's the tent and the Rainfly in one cinch sack, and the poles are in another. But when you have 2 of those together, they almost look alike. And one time I did grab the wrong poles. So what I would recommend, and maybe this can go out to Alps Mountaineering, a suggestion for them or for any other consumers as myself, I've taken a color code and it helps me. I use a white pair of string for my Zephyr 1, and I think I have an orange string tied to both of the cinch straps for the Zephyr 3. That way I can tell them apart now when I grab them. If I see the orange, I know that's our tent, and if I see the white, now I know it's just mine. As I said earlier, I've had this tent out in several storms. 2 times I had it out in about 6 inches of snow. I know it's a 2.5 to 3 season tent because the entire tent body is all mesh before you put the Rainfly on, and it does allow a lot of circulation. It's a very ventilated tent. But I had a little trick, and I'll tell you what I did to use it in the wintertime. Basically, it just kept the heat in a little more for me, but the tent held very well against winds about 40 miles an hour, and it held up for about 6 inches of wet snow to fluffy snow. I have found inside the tent, once inside, I've had plenty of room to move around and do what I needed to do. It's more like, to me, a 1.5 person tent. Once I put my sleeping pad down with my sleeping bag, I always bring my gear inside with me, and my pack is usually laying right next to me on the left side of me. Works great. I've never had a problem with it, and usually there's plenty of room in the vestibule to keep my shoes, of course turn them upside down, and pots and pans that I might use the next morning to either make something to eat or, you know, brew my coffee. And please excuse any background noise you might hear today, guys. I'm at a different recording area. I like to go out on several of the state wildlife areas to record my videos. I find it's great for atmosphere, great for me. I like being out in nature, and sometimes you just can't get away from modern sounds with planes and cars and neighbors and anything else. So this way I like to go out on state wildlife areas and do my recording and my videos. This one's a different one. My wife and I have hiked this several times. I love this area, and I'm happy to get this video in because deer season, and I think it's deer season, one of the seasons, hunting season starts tomorrow. So I was happy enough to get out here. I don't want to bother any of the hunters that are coming out. I don't know if this area even gets used. Sometimes we have stands and places that never get used year round, but the state offers them, so they're there. Okay, enough rambling. Without further ado, I'm going to put this up. I'm going to take you guys for a walk around, tell you some of the things I've done, some of the things I've noticed over my many years and many trips with this tent. Please stay till the end of the video. I'm going to put up a lot of pictures I've had with this tent, places I've been, and several places I shouldn't have been with it, especially the temperatures. But let's go to it. Let's put it up. Now, before I put on the Rainfly, I want to take you guys for a little walk around. The two-pole design, it goes on a crisscross through these sleeves at the top, and Alps Mountaineering gives you plenty of room in the sleeves, so there is no snagging. They go right through easy. It clips on all the poles, as you can see, with these little plastic clips. And now I've had these clips out in every temperature, and they are not even cracked or show any signs of wear yet or stitching. And I can say I've had this tent about 7 or 8 years, but it isn't really bug treated. I have treated it a couple times, but it probably needs a new one. Basically, it's the same method. This one I usually put into a bucket, or I heavily spray it. As you can see, inside the tent, before I put the Rainfly on, there's plenty of room. You have one pocket here, and they give you a gear caddy inside at the top, and I'll take you through the front and show you that and what I did to make sure that thing never comes unclipped. Also on the tent, this is the crossbody pole I was telling you about. It helps support the tent. If this tent has one flaw, it has two, not flaws, just design issues. To me, they don't mean anything. I really don't care. It's a great tent, but I'll explain that to you once I put on the Rainfly. Now time for that. Now, the Alps Mountaineering Zephyr 1, like all their Zephyr series tents, are freestanding tents. They have 1, 4, 9 spots to stake off, 2 on the sides, 1 on the back. Now, the front of the tent, the vestibule, is the 2 spots on the tent you will have to stake out, of course, if you want to use the vestibule when you're camping. I always stake that out. I've always used a vestibule because I like to keep my stuff close to me. Now, the tent is very easy to set up inside here along the Rainfly. There is Velcro straps that you can wrap around the poles to give it some more rigidity. But as to this date, I've actually never used them. Now, this was a little faster setup, but even when I was out in the woods at 40, 45 mile an hour winds, she still held great when she was staked out. But I'm gonna set the camera up, point you guys at the inside, and show you what I was talking about. Okay, I'm gonna keep my mic on me because it is a little windy out today, and I really wanna make sure you can hear me well. This was the point I was talking about on our old Zephyr 3. This has not caused any issues. I can see where they've added some taping on the outside. I noticed that immediately when I bought this after having the Zephyr 3. So that must have been an issue they were aware of and they fixed. But on my other tent that they sent, the Zephyr 3 Rainfly, it no longer had that window. I think that may be in the process when they were trying to fix that issue. And once they fixed it, they re-put the window back in. I love this window. Sometimes it's nice to peek out. Basically, I used it when I had it out and I was wondering if it snowed while I was asleep. But it does offer tiebacks for your door with the vestibule open. Has Velcro at the corners. Now, each of the corners, the Rainfly does snap to the tent body. And what I usually do, pull her open. Since the wind is going to help us today, I'm going to let that stay like that. I'm going to take you guys and show you what I was telling you about the gear caddy inside. But basically, this is one solid, sturdy tent, and it's absolutely, to this date, and I know there's some very expensive tents out there with a lot of gears and gizmos and gadgets, this is still my #1 and most favorite single person tent. Okay, let's see if I can do this one-handed. Well, you can actually see inside. I have one of my little nylon pieces laying there. I'm gonna put that in my pocket. Okay. Now, here's the gear caddy I was telling you about. Once inside the tent, my body, remember I'm 5'10", 205 pounds. Although the camera doesn't look like it, I'm sorry about this right here. That's the little weeds, and the ground sheet I have is not applicable for where I'm at. Matter of fact, if I was camping, I wouldn't be here. But I picked this area because it's the best hide from the wind. Now, when I'm in this tent, my body lays here. The camera can be a little deceiving, and it still leaves all this area to put all my gear next to me. Here's the gear caddy that you can see up top. Now, what I did after noticing every time I packed the tent up, no matter what I did, the gear caddy would come unattached. Now, I know that's not a big deal, it's not a problem. So what I started to do is along each of the loops where the caddy attaches, I put a little zip tie on each one and then clip the edges. That thing is never coming down unless I take a pair of metal snips or a pair of scissors and cut it off. That was just a little inconvenience for me. It's probably just the way I was packing it. I don't fold my tent. I don't want to create any crease lines, so all mine are always stuffed randomly, and then when I'm packing them, I push them down in my bag. That's just the way I roll. We all do things different. I know that. I'm going to put this back, zip this back up, take you for another walk around, tell you a story or two, and tell you the two things that are not, they're not flaws, they're not even cons to the tent, not to me, but you should be aware of them, and I want to make sure that you have all the information you need if this is one of the tents you're going to look at and purchasing in the future. Okay, as you can tell, I love this tent. I have loved it. I've taken it everywhere with me. The weight, I know there's lighter tents out there, but the weight to me is not an issue. For the quality that you're getting, this tent right now, I'm guessing the last time I looked, which was probably a week ago, because I always like to keep an eye out if these things go on sale. I think it was about $110 on Amazon. For value, you're not going to touch anything close to what Alps Mountain. For value, you're not going to touch anything out there to what Alps Mountaineering offers as far as quality and price for what you get. But that being said, when I bought this tent, I think I got it on I think I got it on a Sierra Trading Post years ago. I think it's changed, the website's changed since then. I think I got that tent for $79, if I remember correctly. I know I didn't pay $100, but now they run about $110, and honestly, they are worth it. I highly recommend them. This gets my thumbs up, my recommendation. This is not a first impression. I've spent a lot of time with this tent. Now that being said, and I've rambled on, the two issues that I was talking about, number one, because of the way the vestibule pops out from the tent over here, you're kind of at the elements' mercy when it's raining. When you unzip in this tent, and you can unzip it from the top or the bottom, once you unzip in the vestibule, if it's raining straight down, it's going to come into the vestibule area. I've had it come into the vestibule area many times during rain. Of course, the tent hasn't leaked. And I've had some of it on occasion from getting in and out. I've had it get into the tent body. That's more me. What I have done is I've laid a towel down once in a while, and what that towel done is in the vestibule area, it's caught some of the wetness that I've maybe tracked in. That's the one issue. Not a big issue to me. The other one is just as small and minuscule. The other issue I'm talking about is with this beam right here. Because of the way the tent is constructed, it leaves a pocket right here. Sometimes that's filled up with water. It's never got any issues. I've been inside the tent and been able to plop it off, and it's been fine. Even when it snowed and I was out in about 6 inches of snow, the weight didn't bother it either. I was able to take my hand, flip it up, no problem. But if that's an issue to you, it's not an issue to me. So that's it, guys. I can't say enough more about this tent. This tent also comes with stakes, which are included in their own stake bag, guy lines. What I like to do with my tent is I leave the guy lines attached to the fly, so when I get to where I'm at, they're already there. Put the rain fly on, I'm able to put my stakes in, and I'm good to go. It does have a vented area in the back, as you can see. Here is a little ventilated port or window it has. This little piece of almost like cardboard inside the stitching is Velcroed, and what it does is it can come on Velcroed if you wanted to, or you Velcro and leave it up. I constantly leave this up. I've never taken it down. Here's your other guy line tie outs you can do if you need to add stability to the tent. I've never had to use those to this date, and I've been in some severe winds, but you do have two here and you have two here at the top on both sides. For another little tip for anyone who purchases this tent or the Zephyr 3, I don't know about the Zephyr 2, but this is the Zephyr 1 and the Zephyr 3. Hint, when wrapping up the Zephyr 1 tent poles, what you want to do when you start breaking it down is start from the small end, because When you do that, as you wrap the tent poles up to put away, they come apart the way you need them to go in the bag. Now Zephyr 1, start from the short end when you take the poles apart. Otherwise you're going to have a tent pole sticking outside here that's just not going to go in the bag properly. Ironically, on the Zephyr 3 tent, you have to start from the bottom for that. You have to start from the longest side of the tent pole to fold them up to make them equal when you put them away in their bag. Just a little tip, thought I'd share it. And the Alps Mountaineering Zephyr tent 1 comes in 2 colors. I think it's a gray, and this one's called copper. I always love the copper. You actually saw it on a stealth hike I did not too long ago. I know it's not very stealthy, but I love it. So that's my complete review of the Alps Mountaineering Zephyr 1 tent. I'm going to put a lot of info right here, guys, at the end of the video. I want you to be able to see it, remember it. I don't want to ramble it inside the video. I did a couple of stats that it does have, but it just does offer so much bang for the buck. And please stay tuned at the end. You'll see some of the pictures I've taken with this tent on some of my adventures. As always, guys, thanks for watching the video. I really appreciate it. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. It truly helps the channel, and I look forward to talking to you all again very soon. I'm out.